through storms, unshaken, unbowed. From trials and verdicts, still standing proud. A titan in the tempest, against the raging crowd. He's got a vision for the future, gonna shout it aloud. Change in the wind, it's coming fast. A new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key, make the big switch. Power to the people, time to teach the rich. Legal battles can't hold him, he's moving on. With plans so bold, from dusk till dawn. He's rewriting the rules, a new dawn's day. From the hands of the few to the people's way. Say goodbye to all chains, embrace the new. A financial revolution, fair and true. For the workers, the dreamers, side by side. In Trump's new era, let freedom rise. Change in the wind, it's coming fast. A new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key, make the big switch. Power to the people, time to
Welcome, everyone, to the Crazy Kryptonaut channel. I am Zester, and thank you guys so much for joining this evening, afternoon, morning. I guess it all just depends on where you're at in the morning, but thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you. And I'm going to go through and do a few hellos, and then we're going to jump into things quickly today because we have got, well, a lot of news to go through. And then, of course, we're going to be covering what happened to the ZIG. That was Zimbabwe's most recent attempt at relaunching their national currency. On Friday, there was a massive revaluation that occurred in regards to what ZIG was valued at and how much gold it was backed by. And so we're going to be talking about that one, but I'm going to go through and do some hellos first, and then we will jump right into it. And so, what's up, Flying Squirrel? Glad that you're able to jump in. Oh, and Mile High Trish, how are you doing today? Thank you so much for being here and helping out. Lisa Tucker, thank you so much. And definitely, we have got so much going on in the world right now. And, well, we've got to be prepared. Kukla says, hello, everyone. Happy Monday to you. Hope your day is going well. Kukla, I hope your day is going extremely well, and I hope everyone in the communities is also. And thank you so much for everything that you do. It is absolutely priceless and so much appreciated. I know the community appreciates it so much. What's up, David? David says, hello, everyone. Hello, Zester. Here's your apple. I appreciate it. David, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for the apple. And what's up, Jim and Gary7? I'm going to go a little quick here because we got so much to get into. What's up, Mary Jones? Oh, and I just missed somebody. I missed them. Where'd they go? Oh, and Captain Spiffy. Welcome, guys. And I apologize to anyone that I missed as I scroll through, but we're going to go ahead and jump into the news quickly because we have so much. First things first, we've had a bit of a downturn in the general market. And just so you guys know, this is what we always do right off the bat. We've got to go and start and just see what the market is currently looking like. And of course, we have had a bit of a downturn. Remember, these things are all connected. The price of Bitcoin, the price of XRP, the general strength and validity of traditional financial markets. It all correlates. And so Bitcoin sitting at 63,769, down 3.1% in 24 hours. We were actually pushing. We were pushing towards trying to test some new limits. We exceeded 65,000. 65,000 was actually the previous resistance point for Bitcoin. And so the fact that it exceeded it is a bit of a positive sign, a teensy bit of a positive sign. Ethereum sitting at 2,600, and really our big winner at this moment, XRP, sitting at 62 cents at the moment, and actually had made it over 65 cents for a bit of time. I know this is something we cover always, but when you start to look across the year timeline on XRP, so right now what you're looking at is 1 year of XRP price action, the general ups and downs of XRP over a 1-year timeline. And what we have seen is that we have often been stuck. We seem to always be stuck between 50 and 60 cents. It's by a vast majority where we end up sitting in regards to our XRP price, and we are looking to actually break out. And so that's particularly exciting in my opinion. Of course, I do need to make certain and cover one very important thing. Kukla, thank you so much for making certain that I do. Please remember that anything and everything shared on the Crazy Kryptonaut channel by myself, Zester, or by anybody else who comes on the show is intended for entertainment and educational purposes alone and is in no way financial or legal advice. And so please consult a professional, a licensed professional, before making any decisions. Thank you, Kukla, for making certain I put that out there. You are a savior, Kukla, because I will forget. I'm excited to jump into the news, but those are very, very important things. And so, yes, we are sitting essentially inside of the same general pattern, but we're trying to push out. We're trying to push out in regards to XRP, something I'm very, very excited about. And I know that everyone else in the community is as well, because we've been waiting for a very long time to see XRP break the general trend. Right now, it seems to be. The only other thing that we can even kind of correlate it with at this point is Solana, which really had been underpriced for a little while now. And so with all of that stated, let's go ahead and jump in to Zimbabwe. For everyone that is curious, for anyone that does not know, Zimbabwe very recently launched a gold-backed, asset-backed currency. Now, it is under the denomination of ZIG, Z-I-G. And when they released ZIG, they had a certain amount of gold and other assets and resources held in reserve in order to actually back up the currency. They were trying to, on their own, as a nation, accomplish the financial revolution we all need, which is that our currency would actually be backed by something, anything, regardless of whether it's even a precious metal or not. Nowadays, I'm getting pretty open-minded. Is it backed by anything? Anything. Zimbabwe had gone through and done that. And so we're going to go through and learn a little bit about it today, which I hope for many people is going to be interesting. And I know that in the long run that the lessons we learn from this will be interesting to all. Because there's a lot of what we learn in the cryptocurrency space that is very, very applicable to a situation like this, where we're trying to look at a nation's currency. And in all honesty, the same logic that actually dictates here in regards to whether Bitcoin or anything else, the same price actions, the same market influences are there for something like the new ZIG. It's the same idea. It's being affected in the same way. And so let's get down to talking about it. And so Zimbabwe's gold-backed currency, ZIG. Now, I'll go ahead before we jump too far in. For anyone that is not aware, Zimbabwe has been suffering from massive, massive issues in regards to inflation for going on 2 decades now. And so Zimbabwe has gone through multiple different currencies over these years. The ZIG is Zimbabwe's 6th national currency in 15 years. 6th. AKA, there have been quite a few other tries and they did not work out. But 6th currency in 15 years, and it needs all the help it can get. And so we're going to learn a little bit and go through a bit of the stories coming from people that are on the ground in Zimbabwe. They're living with it. And so the introduction of the world's newest currency in April inspired a reggae artist to record a song praising the ZIG, or Zimbabwe Gold. The catchy tune, titled Zigmari, received generous play on state television and radio. The musician Ras Caleb received a car and $2,000, ironically paid for in US dollars, not the new ZIGs, from a businessman with close ties to Zimbabwe's ruling party and President Emmerson Mnangagwa. Absolutely, please forgive me if I have mispronounced Emerson's last name, but I'm giving it my best shake. He said he wanted to reward an act he considered patriotic. And so the people of Zimbabwe have been getting behind this, but ultimately, when the ZIG first came out, the ZIG was valued somewhere around 14 or 13 and a half US dollars per ZIG. Twin brothers, Tapiwa and Justice Nyamwadzoa, 24, were arrested 2 weeks after the launch of the new currency after allegedly selling undercover detectives cell phone airtime worth $10 at a rate of 15 ZIGs per dollar. According to court papers, the official exchange rate was over 13 ZIGs per dollar. Like other currency traders, the twins were denied bail and remain in pretrial detention on charges that carry a maximum prison term of 10 years. And so originally when ZIG launched, we'll do a little bit of a backstory before we jump into the current news. ZIG was valued somewhere around 13 and a half US dollars to 1 ZIG. The ZIG was backed by somewhere around 425 or $475 million of gold or hard-backed assets, legitimate assets. And so Zimbabwe put up from financial coffers and from citizens that were willing to contribute around a half a billion dollars of hard assets in order to back the new currency. Now, I would absolutely say to everyone out there that $500 million sounds like a lot of money. It sounds like a lot. It makes sense. Okay, Zimbabwe has got $500 million and they're going to back their currency with it. That sounds positive. It really does. It's a big number. I don't have even one of those 500 million, and so it must be a big number. And they threw that out there, and they launched with that. And they went out there with the currency, and they said, hey, the currency is backed by $500 million worth of gold and silver and other assets. And that means it should be somewhat stable. Well, to say things in a very, very clear way, while that number seems very, very large, $500 million is not enough of a backing asset of gold and silver to run an economy like the island of Puerto Rico. It's an island, the island that I live on, the island of Puerto Rico. There's about 3 million people that live here. We could not operate for a matter of weeks on a currency backed by $500 million. Not weeks. We couldn't operate. Zimbabwe is a country of many, 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 many more people than the island of Puerto Rico. That number seemed large. It is extremely small. $500 million of gold nowadays is essentially, from a nation standpoint, worthless. There are island nations that have nothing that have more money than that. And so Zimbabwe released the ZIG with the amount of gold and backing resources that they had, because that's what the nation has. And it was at a fixed rate. And it was a very, very good thing for the people of Zimbabwe. It was a very good thing for a very short time, because ultimately you cannot run a nation's economy backed by $500 million, backed by anything that is worth $500 million. It ain't going to work. That's not enough gold to even start the process. We couldn't back up a small corporation in the United States with $500 million of gold and resources. We couldn't back up Microsoft for a week with that amount of money. It does not add up. And so what occurred on Friday of this last week, and so today is the 30th of September, and so 29th, 28th, 27th, on the 27th of September, Zimbabwe revalued their ZIG. They revalued their ZIG transfer rate with the US dollar, and they reduced the value of ZIG by about 44%. Now, since that moment, it has continued to fall. It has continued to fall since then. And it has really continued the ongoing humanitarian crisis that Zimbabwe has been facing for the past decade now. Decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. A lot of time of a humanitarian crisis. And in all honesty, it really is a bit of a... It's something that I think that we need to pay attention to. Because ultimately, we want our currency and our new financial system to be backed by real world assets. We want it to be backed by things that have tangible, real world value. We want a currency backed by gold, silver, something of value. Something that no matter what will still be worth something, as opposed to the US petrodollar that we currently have that is worth nothing more than the cotton polymer blend that it is printed upon. We want that. But what we have to keep in mind, and what the ZIG is the perfect example of, is that ultimately, when you're talking about backing up a currency and backing up a nation with something, it is an extremely large number. Zimbabwe is not a flourishing economy. This is not Germany. This is not the United States. This is not Poland. This is not an economy that is known to grow. An economy the size of Zimbabwe cannot be upheld by $500 million of hard assets. Not even close to be upheld by it. And that's a lesson that we all need to be keeping in mind, and we all need to be learning, is that if Zimbabwe can't do it with that amount of money, how much money do you think is necessary? how much gold, silver, and hard assets are necessary for the United States to go gold and asset back. If $500 million isn't even close to enough to keep Zimbabwe's economy running, what is enough to run the economy of the United States of America? It's real big number. It's a real big number. That's the only answer I can give you. I do not know it. I wish I could give you a ballpark estimate of just how much would be necessary. But what I do know is that the number is not small. It's very, very, very long. And so, from everything we've learned from ZIG, I think there's a lot that we can take away for the other currencies that we're looking at. And what we can see now is that while Zimbabwe is trying, and while the ZIG is probably the best option they have ever picked, ultimately, until our real world assets are properly valued, until our gold, until our silver, until our oil, until our lithium, and until the titanium, until the real world assets held by a nation are being valued, and they're being valued properly, Zimbabwe getting out of their current situation is essentially impossible. Zimbabwe is, I could use a few French words. I don't think the French invented them, but for some reason they get blamed for our curse words. But I could use a few curse words. And ironically, Zimbabwe was a French colony, I believe, at some point in time. But ultimately, they're screwed. They cannot get out of this situation until their resources and their assets are being properly valued. It's not even a possibility. Even when they have tried to put up everything they as a nation possibly can, they can't support their own economy. And it's not their fault at this point. The politicians that did it at the beginning, it's their fault. Those politicians set up the situation that Zimbabwe is currently in. There is an absolute gigantic middle finger for the people of Zimbabwe to throw at their previous and past politicians for the things that they have done and how they destroyed their nation's economy. But ultimately, their government now has tried 6 different times to get the Zimbabwe currency back up and running. And the 6th time, backed by gold, silver, and other precious metals and resources, is not working. If you woke up tomorrow and your dollar had lost 40% of its value, what would you do? What would you do? How would you act? The people of Zimbabwe woke up on Friday to a 40% reduction in the value of their currency. There is a way out of this, but ultimately, for Zimbabwe, they are stuck in a perpetual loop at this point, where they do not have enough resources on hand to actually support their economy. They have got a massive issue going in regards to corruption. Massive issue. And they have for a very, very long time in regards to corruption. And so they're stuck. They're stuck. They don't have enough resources to back their currency, and they have too much corruption ongoing in their government and society to possibly get out of it. And so now they have created a gold-backed currency. But their gold-backed currency just lost 40% of its value overnight. That does not sound like a resource-backed currency. To everything that we have learned, everything that we've taught about, that's not how it would work, right? It wouldn't work that way. Our gold-backed currency would hold its value. It's what many people are taught. That's what many people believe. But ultimately, these things are not as cut and dry as they seem. A resource-backed and asset-backed economy is going to be dependent upon the price and value of said assets. What is it backed by? Zimbabwe, if the value of gold had gone up 2,000% in the past year, Zimbabwe ZIG would have worked. It would have worked. No problem. No questions asked. If the value of the assets being held by the nation of Zimbabwe were rising at the same time as usage of their currency was rising, would have been absolutely zero issue. And that J Money, and J Money has a great question. J Money says, yeah, but once gold's true value is implemented, wouldn't that help solve the issue? It would, J Money. And that is where it becomes extremely important. It's not a matter of whether these numbers add up. The numbers add up if the value of the assets held by the nations is actually worth that much. And so, with a nation like Zimbabwe, effectively, it is stuck until the value of its assets and its in-ground assets, which are not going to be valued the same way, that's not how things work, become somewhat more of a clear approximation. Zimbabwe is effectively incapable of backing up their own economy. So for those asking about the 100 trillion note and things of that nature, I would just point them to the general fact this is the 6th currency. 6th in 15 years. In 15 years, they have had 6 reissuances of their currency. And so, ultimately, until they have got something to back it up with, until their reserves are worth an amount necessary or capable of backing up their economy, the Zim is screwed. They're stuck, and they're not going to get out. And I 100% would look at that as a matter of, well, it's the mistakes of the past. It's the mistakes of colonial powers that were in charge of Zimbabwe's economy for a very long time and continued to influence it for countless decades after the colonial powers were no longer in charge. And then, of course, it's also the culpability of the Zimbabwe governmental officials that were in charge for countless years of printing insane notes. Insane notes. The hardest part about Zimbabwe and their currency is counting the zeros. That's the hardest thing to figure out. How many zeros do I need to buy a cup of coffee? They completely mismanaged it. I personally believe that the nation of Zimbabwe has got a bright future someday. Someday. Ultimately, the ZIG, the most recent attempt at reissuing Zimbabwe's currency, is a failure. It's an absolute failure. You cannot possibly release a currency that is supposed to be backed by real-world assets and then immediately have it begin to lose value. 40% of value off of the gold-backed currency, and it is continuing. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe made the decision to slash the local exchange rate to 24 ZIG to $1, or 75 cents of a euro. I don't know how that one works. On Friday. This slump is due to an increase in demand for the US dollar, which is also legal tender in the nation. It comes after warnings from large retailers of store closures if the rate remained fixed at the previous level. And so Stores and businesses inside of Zimbabwe were saying, we cannot continue to use this currency. We are not being offered enough money when we try to exchange it for this to make sense. And so if Walmart says, hey, I am not going to take your currency anymore, I would like another nation's currency. Otherwise, you're not allowed to shop at Walmart. That's effectively what's occurring in Zimbabwe, where retailers in Zimbabwe are saying, we will only take US dollars. If you have a US dollar, we would love to have your business. If you have ZIG, please stay home. And that is a clear indication that the volatility in the market is too high. When I make a purchase and I go to Walmart, and this is something we all need to think about, because this really correlates to a lot of different parts of cryptocurrency, XRP, and just how things work. Ultimately, if I go to Walmart and I would like to buy $100 of, we're going to use easy terms, $100 of groceries, and I pay in a currency that over the next 7 days, so I pay on Monday. On Monday, I buy it. Today, I buy it. I buy $100 of whatever groceries today. If the currency I paid in is only worth $90 come next Monday, well, then Walmart is not going to take my money. They're not going to take $100 today that will be worth $90 in a week. They're not going to take it. Logically speaking, that is not how you run a business. And so a volatile currency, a currency that goes up and down all the time, it doesn't matter what direction it goes in. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. Businesses cannot gamble on it going up. They have got to plan and hedge their bets against it going down. And so, naturally, retailers in Zimbabwe are saying, we're not taking it anymore. Even though it's a national currency, they're saying, we can't. I cannot accept what is, to the retailer, essentially monopoly money. They don't know what it's going to be worth in the amount of time necessary for them to take it from, hey, I just sold you a loaf of bread. All right, sold it on Monday. Now that gets transferred over, and say Walmart, in this situation, this example, needs to make a purchase of more bread come next Monday. Well, if your money is not worth the same amount that you spent on the first loaf of bread, Walmart's screwed. It doesn't work that way. And so we're stuck in a world where someone like Zimbabwe is essentially unable to work themselves out of the debt until they go ahead and literally state that all their currency is worthless. At some point in time, they're going to have to make some kind of decision on this one, because 6 different currencies. The ZIG, which stands for Zimbabwe Gold, was launched over 6 months ago and is the country's 6th currency in 25 years. So, for all those that are out there holding Zim and things of that nature, well, I can't be certain, and I do not know. I do not know. Ultimately, right now, Zimbabwe has got one gigantic hole to dig themselves out of. And until things change in regards to the valuation of the assets that Zimbabwe does hold, it doesn't really look like Zimbabwe is capable of getting out. Once there is some kind of major change, then Zimbabwe has an avenue. Until then, the math just doesn't add up. There's not enough wealth held by the nation of Zimbabwe to facilitate a currency. Not right now. And so, unless that changes, which I would hope at some point it does. I hope for the sake of the people of Zimbabwe that it changes, if for nothing else than that, it changes. But ultimately, it is not something where the government of Zimbabwe really has anything they can do. The government of Zimbabwe finally put into place the one and only option they had to possibly dig themselves out, and it did not work. They do not have another option. Short of the other governments of the world putting up an absurd amount of wealth in order to back up the Zimbabwe's currency, there is no other option. Either the assets change in value, somebody shows up with a ton of money, or Zimbabwe clears the books. If I were the nation of Zimbabwe, and I know that many people in the community probably don't want to hear this, but if I was the nation of Zimbabwe, I would clear the books. I would clear the books. I would clear the books, and I would not think another second about it. I'd clear them. Because their only other way to get out of this is for the rest of the world to wake up. Until the rest of the world wakes up, Zimbabwe children are going to continue to starve to death because they do not have food. And they cannot afford it. And it is because of their government and the economic decisions that it made. And so, tough decision, tough conversation. And there's so many different avenues for that to go down, because just as many people have stated in the comments here today, it really comes down to what else is going on. It really comes down to what else is going on. Ultimately, Zimbabwe has got other investors. They have other people there. And Zimbabwe has got an absolute fortune sitting underneath their land in regards to natural resources. And so Zimbabwe is going to be worth a lot in the future. Their nation has got a crap load of value, but right now they're pretty stuck. They are pretty well stuck. And so looking forward to some major changes in the world and some major changes in regards to how we value natural resources. In that situation, I think Zimbabwe is going to be doing extremely well. Until then, well, anybody that owned ZIG on Thursday of last week, they lost 43% of their value in one fell swoop on Friday of last week. And so I don't know if anyone in the community is currently a holder of the new ZIG currency or not, but I have not. I have a small amount of Zim. I have not sold my small amount of Zim. I'm going to hold on to it. I'm going to wait it out. And in the long term, Zimbabwe is going to be a very, very valuable nation and a very, very influential nation. It's just not right now. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen for a while. All right, though, guys, we have got even more going on, and we have got an extremely interesting day of news because, well, World Liberty Financial, aka Trump's cryptocurrency company, they finally gave us a little bit of information. Well, they finally gave us something. And so let's jump in and let's talk about what World Liberty Financial, or the Donald Trump family crypto, is up to. Because I know for many this is going to be an interesting one. And, well, World Liberty Financial announced 6 hours ago, this is extremely new information, that the World Liberty Financial whitelists are now open. Backed by Donald J. Trump, we will onboard the next wave of users into the future of finance. Join the movement here. This is a thread, and so we're going to have to read through a few different tweets. While these whitelists are currently open to accredited investors in the U.S. and all non-U.S. persons, that is a change, guys. Originally, when they made the announcement, it was only for accredited investors in the United States. So this is a very important statement. This is coming from the Trump family and the Trump company. While these white lists are currently open to accredited investors in the US and all non-US persons, we are not turning our backs on the everyday American. Our mission is to bring financial freedom to everyone, no matter their background or bank balance. Due to outdated policies and regulations in the United States, one whitelist is limited to accredited U.S. investors and another for all non-U.S. persons. We are fighting for changes so all Americans can access World Liberty Financial and join the financial revolution. We plan for all Americans to be able to use this platform in the future, giving everyone access to the tools and opportunities that have been restricted for far too long. Sign up now, and together we'll reshape the future of finance. This statement and this final breakdown from World Liberty Financial is extremely appreciated because we at least now have a little bit more information. And so, for all those people out there that are currently accredited investors, you are allowed to now go in and participate in World Liberty Financial. Accredited investors are allowed to participate, and you're allowed to join the whitelist in order to buy World Liberty Financial token, the Trump token. For the rest of us, if you are a non-US citizen, you are allowed to buy. That is a major change from the information that we had previously been told. You are allowed to buy. Canadians, go nuts. If you're from Mexico, go nuts. You live in Europe, go nuts. Australia, go nuts. Buy the Trump token. You are completely welcome and open to joining the whitelist and purchasing the World Liberty Financial token. For everyone inside of the United States, if you are not an accredited investor, you are not allowed to invest in World Liberty Financial. Now, they do state here, that they are not turning their backs on everyday Americans, and that the goal is to bring financial freedom to everyone, no matter their background or bank balance. And they are stating that it is entirely because of the policies and regulations inside of the United States. They are correct. This is not wrong. It is illegal to provide a cryptocurrency token offer to American citizens. Apparently, it is not legitimate law. It is not in any way fair or just or logical in any form or fashion. But it is the way that the United States currently works under the Biden administration. Ultimately, under the Biden administration, it is illegal for you and I to participate in the pre-sale of World Liberty Financial tokens. I'd be very curious to hear what everybody thinks about the fact that some agency with no jurisdiction decided you don't have the right to decide how you spend your money. I'd be interested to hear everyone's opinions on that. So please toss those into chat or into the comments, because I'm not flipping happy about it. It's my money. If I want to burn my money, I should be allowed to burn my money. If I want to invest my money in World Liberty Financial, I should be allowed to invest my money in World Liberty Financial. It is my money. I should do with it whatever I damn well please, even if it's stupid. Freedom of speech in the United States of America is not freedom of intellectual thought. It is the freedom to be wrong. I have got the right to be wrong. And so I'm extremely offended by the fact that I'm not allowed to purchase. Extremely offended. For anyone that is curious or maybe does meet the qualifications, then please, you can absolutely go to worldlibertyfinancial.com. Begin your KYC verification. You can come in here and say, I live in the United States and I am an accredited investor. Or you can say, I live outside of the United States and I got $10 in my pocket and I'd like to buy. So effectively, the way they have set it up means that if I am an average everyday person in any other country besides the United States of America, I'm allowed to buy. If I was wandering around the Sahara with $10 in my pocket and nothing else, I would be allowed to legally buy World Liberty Financial. $10 wandering around in the middle of the desert, literally dying from dehydration. I would be allowed to invest in World Liberty Financial. But if I'm an American, I got to be a millionaire. Figure that shit out. Figure that shit out. When someone figures out a logic to back all of that up and has it ready for me, please, please let me know, because I can't get there. I have yet to figure out the degree of stupid necessary for this to make sense. But it is not Trump's fault. And I would like to make that very clear. This is not the World Liberty Financial team's fault. This is not Trump's fault. This is absolutely the fault of the United States regulatory bodies, the SEC. The SEC has made their own laws because our Congress is so flippin' useless. They can't make laws. They can't pass legislation. And so they have left this giant gray area where the SEC has entered themselves into that gray area and said, well, if no one else is going to make rules, we'll make rules. And the SEC made rules. Those rules include you and I not allowed. And so if you're a Canadian and you come up to this screen, click the button, connect your wallet, and guess what? You get to invest. Literally right here, connect your wallet. So let's go back. I live outside of the United States. Click. Connect wallet. I live inside of the United States. Connect wallet. Let's connect a wallet and see what happens. We end up I don't know what wallet it just decided I was trying to log into. Let's connect to our MetaMask wallet. And now it's going to ask me to sign a message, which I'm going to have to change, actually, which account I'm on. But so for me, being an American, let's cancel, retry. Let's pick that account. Next, confirm. And now I'm just not allowed. I'm just not allowed. Not even close to allowed. And so if you live anywhere else, well, you're allowed to go in, connect your wallet, and start making your contributions. If you're not, well, then you're not. Yep. And so for anyone out there, World Liberty Financial, I would highly, 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 and Hot Rod Tilly, do you want me to invest, Esther? Hot Rod Tilly, if I were somebody who suggested financial advice, maybe. But ultimately, I'm just going to be angry with you because I'm going to be ornery that I wasn't allowed to participate. But Hot Rod Tilly, if you can, that is a decision you'll have to make. If you are legally allowed to invest, then, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's very hard to make decisions and to try and analyze a situation that I'm not allowed to participate in. Maybe that's just a mental block where it's like, my brain's just like, well, if I'm not allowed, then why would I think about it? But ultimately, and Savvy, you're right. Zester, VPN. Well, yes, I could use a VPN. And in that situation, all I would do is I would go ahead and I'd come over here and I'd crank up my my VPN software, and I'd say, okay, where do I want to go out and be? And I'd say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch my place over to somewhere else. But ultimately, if I were just like, okay, fine, anywhere else is allowed. I live in France now. And I were just to go, hey, connect. I live in France now. Now I am no longer an American and I'm allowed to participate. It doesn't just work that way. Because what is to say, and we do not know what these accounts are going to look like. What if I need to give my personal information? They will track me down. Ultimately, I may get away with this for a while. I may be able to go in, use a VPN, and make a purchase. But I would not get away with it. And I especially won't get away with it if I live stream it. And so I won't get away with it. Not in the long run. I might be able to make the purchase quickly and then run away and hide my World Liberty Financial. But even then, I committed a crime if I do that. It is still considered a crime. I don't know what crime. I don't know who I wronged. But ultimately, I do not want to be sitting inside of a jail cell making that same argument, going, what did I do wrong? Well, it doesn't change the fact that my butt is still sitting in that jail cell. And right now, the law's working away where that's where they could put me. And so right now, I would say, D. Deckert, sham or entrapment? D. Deckert, I'm not really certain. And I'm not really certain who's shamming who and who's scamming who. At this point in time, Trump and World Liberty Financial should be able to do things the way they want to. They are having to do things the way they are because of the insane rules. And so are we being scammed by the SEC? The SEC is the only reason you and I are not allowed to participate. That's it. It is not Trump. It is not World Liberty Financial. They want us to buy. They have zero reason to keep us from investing. But they're not allowed to let us invest. And so I don't think that it is the Trump family doing anything wrong. I think they're essentially causing this because now you and I and so many other conservatives and so many other investors are going to have to think about it. They did this, which is something that me being in the cryptocurrency space and industry for years, I knew these rules. I've lived with them. But for the vast majority of Americans, this is new. For the vast majority of voters, this is new information. You did not know that's how it worked. And so now, because of Trump and his family, a huge portion of the American public is getting educated on the fact that this is the situation we're in. maybe there's something to be said that's just right there. Maybe the answer is just right there. The answer is we want people to see how screwed up this is. And I'm glad that everyone here is seeing it. I have been screaming for, at the top of my lungs now for 8 years about these things. 9 years. I don't even know how many years anymore. I'm losing count of them. I've been screaming about these things, but it wasn't something that people paid attention to. They didn't realize what was going on because it wasn't important to an everyday life. Now, with Trump, we're starting to get the veil pulled away, and people are starting to see what's been going on behind the scenes in these cryptocurrency companies and in the laws and regulations we've been trying to adhere to. We've been trying to adhere to an ever-moving set of regulations that don't even exist. Maybe this is just to wake people up. This is a wake-up call, a clarion call out to the American people and to investors to say, hey, something is wrong here. Why do rich people get to keep being richer and the rest of us get told to be happy being poorer? That's the world we live in. It's the world we've lived in for a very long time. And it becomes so clear when you look at it in the form of cryptocurrency and the laws and regulations around it, because there's no obfuscation. There's no way to hide it. Usually, they can hide the numbers. They can make shit up. With crypto, they can't. The numbers are for all of us to see. And so they cannot hide their transgressions. And that means they have to change the game. The game has got to change. We've got to get more conniving in order to keep people ignorant. In the past, it's easy. I guarantee no one in this community, myself, and you can't find a person that knows how many US dollars are technically in circulation. It's impossible. It's beyond impossible. We have no idea how many US dollars are in circulation. With cryptocurrency, I can tell you how many tokens are in circulation, how many dollars are in circulation, like that, immediately. And anyone can, and everyone can. You can do it, I can do it, everyone can do it. That is freedom. That's a freedom of an economy. Because when we're all able to see everyone's dirty laundry in regards to the government and politics and our central banks, well, then we're all going to be on an equal playing field. And yes, Queen Zester, I know, Queen, actually, you're very on point with how these laws first came in to effect, Queen. I completely agree. So Queen says, Zester, that was not the thing. Too many real estate investor companies were ripping off the elderly and naive investors. Although, yes, the DS is all about control. That was really happening. It was. It was really happening, Queen. Back in the 1910s, 100 years ago. It was really happening. And it's still happening today. And the law is not stopping that. It is nothing more than essentially words written on a piece of paper that aren't really backed up by anything at the moment. But I agree, Queen. You are correct. You are correct. Dodd-Frank and everything in regards to the various accredited investor laws were at one point somewhat logical. But even then, they weren't. Ultimately, even then, Queen, and I agree that it's good to protect people that are elderly or naive in regards to investments. That's a good thing. But how does that world work? How does that world work? How are we going to decide if someone is smart enough or knowledgeable enough to make an investment? The law that they passed means that it's a matter of dollars. So you're saying that a genius, an absolute genius, walking down the road who is homeless is not allowed to invest, but he's infinitely more intelligent and more knowledgeable than the person who is. It's not a matter of accredited, it's a matter of privilege. There are people that are privileged to be in that class of society. They are privileged because they have that much money. Because ultimately, and so Queen, so go file as an accredited investor. Queen, I don't make $300,000 a year. I don't have $1 million in the bank. Well, 200 and some $1,000. But to be an accredited investor, you have got to have $1 million. You have got to be a millionaire to be an accredited investor. A millionaire. That is not a matter of intelligence. That's a matter of privilege. You have $1 million sitting in your bank account. Maybe you earned it, maybe. But you probably could have earned it quicker if you had access to the same things those people had from the get-go. It's gatekeeping. They gatekeep us away from investments. And so, yes, I am very, very salty. Sorry, guys, for all the salt today. But ultimately, we have got a confluence of events that I find to be particularly salt-inspiring. And so, yes, thank you guys so much. I know that we have so much more to go into and talk about, but I just looked at the time. It has been an hour, and we're going to be talking about this stuff all week. I'm going to be coming back with some short videos that are just going specifically into the topics, and we're going to be talking about World Liberty Financial and the Zimbabwe currency throughout this week. And so do not fear. We have much more to share on that front. And thank you guys all so much for joining. And please, for anyone that is curious, we are actually starting a little RSVP event for a security breakdown on Saturday. And so anyone that wants to join, there is going to be an opportunity inside of the Discord to actually join an event this weekend going through cyber security. We're going to talk about this VPN software, and we're going to talk about everything else that I use to try and keep my identity safe. And we're also going to make certain that we help out and hook up anybody that has any questions on that one. So please go check out the Discord. Tune in for the security update on Saturday if that's something that you're interested in. If not, we're going to be talking about ZIG and World Liberty Financial and cryptocurrency all the time in the coming days. And so, love you. Thank you guys so much for being here today. And I'll talk to you very, very soon. Peace, guys.